History happened everywhere.
The verdict.
This is our after show podcast where we look back at the most recent episode 104, Literature in Morocco during 1500 to 500 BCE. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and check it out, or else there will be spoilers ahead.
Have you had your teeth done?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, they look very American.
Oh, well done.
I look like Trump.
Hello, my name is Ryan Weir, and I'm here in the HHE studio with the war and peace to my hungry caterpillar. It's Mr. Peter Goddard.
Are you calling me thick?
I'm saying I'm hungry.
Well, I am a bit thick, so I'll take that.
And we are joined as ever by the determined dissector of denouements. It's the judge himself. It's Mr. Paul Dersley.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
Evening, Judge. Now, Peter, I have been catching up on a month of sleepless nights, and I have completely forgotten everything that we talked about on the last episode, so would you mind reminding me what happened in, let's say, 60 seconds?
I don't mind at all, but when would you want me to start that?
Well, I'd really like you to start it now.
We went to the Maghreb, northwest Africa, to the nation of Morocco. There we took our hats off to the world's oldest continually operating university, located in Fez. We pulled on our skis while looking at the desert. We marvelled at the extensive movie history of the area, and we generally loved the place with all our liver. And we went in search of literature, in a place and time with, we discovered, nothing written down. But we were not deterred. We heard the stories of the mighty hero Heracles, who fought a giant and stole a bag of fruit while he was visiting the place. We discovered some ancient realities that underlay those myths. And of course, who could forget, in one of my favourite moments we've ever had on the show, we met an up-and-coming young author whose entire novel was about memory and survival and was set by chance in the place and time of our podcast. Or was it by chance? No, it was not, because that novelist's name was Ryan Weir, podcast host and, to my great surprise, a writer of literature set in Morocco during 1500 to 500 BCE.
Last week's episode done, summarised nicely, nice one son. Now we're over to a young Dersley, who's gonna tell you what he thought of thee. He'll take you apart without any care. He's the lovely Paul Dersley, the lovely Paul Dersley. Ah, yes, I remember now. And what an episode it was, Peter. I particularly liked it very, very much. But what does it matter what I think? Because we're not here for my opinion. We're here for the opinion of just one man, Judge Dersley. So, Paul, before we convene the court and receive your final ruling, why don't you kick us off with your first impressions of episode 104?
Well, I think I'm going to keep my powder dry.
Probably the powder that he will sprinkle on you in celebration of a brilliant grade.
Yeah, I'm not feeling it, Pete.
Well,
I'll be honest.
I must say, it was a bold gambit to write an entire novel just for an episode, just to fit it in. And I would like to start with that because it was such a significant and, frankly, freaking hilarious contribution to the podcast. I would like to point out that when you opened that section and you were saying, and I found a novelist who wrote a story, but I had been researching, looking for literature set in this time and place, and I'm thinking, how have I missed this book that Ryan seems to have happened upon? And then when it started, that's why I was laughing so heartily when it finally sunk in what you'd done. I was
newly published book. That's why you didn't find it.
Exactly.
You missed the trick. You should have tried to publish it a little bit earlier, then Pete would have found it.
Ah, that would have been amazing. If only I could write a novel in 3 weeks rather than 4.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ryan, if you're going to slack like that, that's what you can expect. So, Ryan, I did write a review of the book, so I did read it, and I must say I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you for reading it.
So I've written you a review. It goes like this. Weir brings to life a vivid picture of prehistoric Morocco, tackling concepts of memory and survival within a compelling plot of threat, escape, and betrayal. With strong characters, compelling landscapes, and a huge philosophical heart, Starsong is quite simply the best piece of literature covering Morocco between 1500 and 500 BCE ever written. Buy it today.
Also the only.
Yes, we don't need to draw people's attention to that, do we?
Well, thank you very much. I'm sure that's going to draw the punters in. When I was publishing it, it was asking me what genre I wanted to put it in.
This is one of a kind. So at what point, Ryan, I have to know, did you decide, think I'd... Because I did toy with the idea if I could do my bit in the form of a story, and that's literature. And then I thought that was a bit much. I thought that was a bit much. So at what point did you go, I know what I'll do. I'll write a whacking great novel. When did you pull the trigger on that?
Well, my original intention was to write a series of short stories. But as I started writing the first story, I thought, no, I'm in now and I like this character. I'm just going to keep writing. So the first short story ended up being a novel.
Not so short.
You could tell I'm quite quiet because I'm moderately shocked. So you wrote this yourself in 3 weeks?
4, but yeah. That's why the episode was a week late. Sorry, everyone.
And are you working at the moment?
There wasn't a lot of work done, put it that way.
I was going to say, because, it takes 6 hours to read, say.
Yeah.
So you work out the ratio of time to write compared to time to read.
Yeah, it's a lot of hours. And, what I would have liked to have had was more time to edit. I ran out of time eventually to go through it. So
I've got a few suggestions.
Yeah,
notes, I believe they're called.
Second edition on its way.
That was one of the first things that I looked up on Amazon Kindle. Is like, what's the process of putting in updates after you've published? And there is a way of doing it. So yeah, there will be second update coming.
And what did you think of it overall, Paul?
The honest answer is I didn't really know what to make of it, what genre to put it in. Because when I started, I thought, well, he's obviously got ChatGPT to write him a story in the style of Paulo Coelho.
Wow, that's flattering.
Sorry, it makes me think I think that you're a dimbo. But I sort of didn't think you had it in you.
Wow.
Because
that's a compliment and a slap round the face at the same time.
But there was something there. I got through 3/4 of the way through the book thinking this is an ideal children's book.
Okay.
Then it got a bit dark. So you may have to tone that down if you want to sell it to children. Well, children like gore, don't they?
They very much do. It's the one thing that they like.
I was also confused about the 7 stars. I'm assuming you mean the Pleiades.
I just made up 7 stars. That wasn't actually tied to anything in particular. 7's just a lucky number for me.
Well, that's interesting because there are 7 stars called the Pleiades.
Yeah, it was definitely the Pleiades.
But there are also 7 stars in the Plough.
Okay.
And you said at one point the constellation never set. So I just assumed that, well, obviously not. You're not as bright as I thought you were. But the Pleiades do set. So there are times of the year where you don't see the Pleiades, but there are not times of the year where you don't see the Plough.
Oh, it must have been the Plough then.
It was definitely the Plough. That was the one I intended for.
But
you're seeing into the sausage factory and you're not liking what you're seeing.
It was interesting. You didn't mention these stars and you didn't give them a name. I thought, well, fine, because they might not have known what it was called.
I'm not sure they had ploughs then, did they? Let alone to call it a plough.
But they could have had their own name for it. But there is 7 stars, colloquially known as the 7 sisters in Taurus, the bull.
So, historical fact.
Once again, Ryan nails it.
Okay. Sorry, it sounds like I'm trying to pick you up. I am not, because it's something that I certainly could not do, and I'm impressed actually. And you need to take it further.
Oh well, that's very kind of you.
I think someone might be interested in it.
Wow.
I read it and it wasn't a lever to read, I have to say. I read it and thought that was a good book. So that's, for a 4-week book, that is remarkable.
Yes.
The biggest gamble here was that I'd written something that was just truly awful. And then I had to make it public because otherwise I had nothing for the episode. So, I'm pleased with it. I miss writing it, but at the same time, I'm glad that it's done. And I don't think I'll be writing another one in a month again.
But no, that was an audacious and remarkable contribution to the podcast. And I think it is a high point in the history of HHE podcast.
Well, it won't be happening again. So enjoy it. It's your turn next, Pete. I want a fully produced major motion picture. guys. So, look, talking of the novel, while I was doing the research, I was looking at the history of memory keepers and oral storytellers, and I was curious if anyone was still doing it today. And that is when I stumbled across a remarkable woman called Fatima Tabaamrant. So, born in 1962 in a rural Berber community in southern Morocco, she got off to a pretty rough start. Her mother died when she was 3 years old, and she was then raised by her father's new family, where she was kept from going to school in order that she could work in the fields during the day and at home during the night.
Oof.
After years of abuse, at 15 years old, her father decides that he's going to marry her off. And to no one's great surprise, it isn't a happy union, and there's more abuse, more neglect, until eventually she decides she's going to leave her husband by escaping and running off to the nearest city. She starts to pursue a career in poetry, in music, and it only takes her a couple of years until she gets her big break. It's 1983, and there is this local music troupe that happened to need a replacement for a female dancer. So Fatima steps forward, says she'll do it. Now, her performance is so impressive that the leader of the dance troupe decides that he's going to take her under his wing and give her formal training. Enough so that she's able to release her first album 2 years later in 1985. The album features 5 of her original poems, all set to music, all of which she sings in her native language. Now, the album becomes a huge success, and she continues to build up such a big fan base that by 1991, she has her own musical troupe and kicks off a career of writing, composing, and recording about 40 albums, all in all. She went on tour internationally. She gave concerts in Asia and Europe. She even gave a performance in Paris in 1994 that had such a big crowd, they had to call the police out to escort her out safely from the venue because they were worried about her.
Wow.
Yeah, but through all this success, she stayed true to her roots. She always performed in traditional dress, she always spoke in Berber language, and she danced during traditional Berber dances. And it was this commitment to preserving ancient traditions that she eventually found a way into politics. She joined the RNI Independence Party. She served there for 5 years. She pushed the government to include the teaching of Berber languages in schools, public services to be given skills to be able to translate those that lived in rural areas that didn't speak Arabic. And she did all this while still continuing to produce music, doing concerts, festivals, and all sorts of other cultural events. But then she went back to music full-time, and she is still continuing to release new songs up to present day. She has a career that spanned over 4 decades. She's a singer, songwriter, poet, actress, politician, and in 2018, the Royal Institute of Amazigh Culture awarded her a Lifetime Achievement Honour, recognising the entirety of her artistic oeuvre, which plumbs the depths of Moroccan Amazigh identity.
I would hope so. It must have gone, and in recognition of, well, all that.
Yes, all the things you've done.
All that stuff. We're going to give you a prize.
Well, I'm going to play a little bit of Fatima singing, so I'll play that at the end of this section.
All right.
And so, what's the proportion of Berbers in Morocco?
25% Berber languages spoken.
Oh, and the population is 31 million, so that's quite a large number, 6 or 7 million.
It's a big group of people, isn't it?
Mm.
There you go, not trivial. I think the lesson here, Ryan, is you need to translate Starsong into Berber. They will take it to their hearts as a reflection of their local and ancient culture, and you'll be quids in.
The benefit of having a digitally produced book means I can do exactly that. So there will be an Arabic version, and there will be a Spanish version, and other versions going out soon.
I bet if you went on the subreddit for the Berbers, someone would translate the whole thing for you. That's
a great idea. All right. Well, if you're out there, reach out and let me know.
What percentage are you offering?
Shut up.
Right. I talked about the largest flag ever draped and you scoffed. You mocked me.
I did. There's something stupid about I don't know, an award for having the largest draped flag.
Well, you think that's stupid? Strap in, because as I say, I went down a very deep records for big flags rabbit hole, which I couldn't bring to that episode because it was entirely irrelevant. But that's what the verdict is all about.
That's all it's for.
Irrelevances.
So I'm here.
That's why I feel so at home here.
So much like you, I spotted that draped seemed like a very specific word to be using. And that's because there are indeed numerous categories of large flag records, okay? Now, obviously, it's mainly in opposition to the largest flag flown, which was achieved by Seaside Boulevard Administration in Baku, Azerbaijan in 2024. But Ryan, if you've got a giant flag...
Well, how big was it?
Yeah, how big was the flag?
I don't have the dimensions. This is the beginning of about 20 flag records.
You can't have a thing about flags and then not have the dimensions of the flag.
See if you still feel that way at the end of this. Because that's nothing, Brian, because if you are a flag flyer and you didn't quite reach that, you can then get a bit more specific, because there is a record for the largest flag flown whilst skydiving, or flown by a paramotor trike, or flown on a personal watercraft.
What?
So then there's other set of specific records for the largest flag unfurled. Completely different thing, obviously. There isn't a general largest flag unfurled category.
What's unfurled and draped?
Well, I have to assume that once it is unfurled, it has become draped, because there isn't a general largest unfurled for everything. But there is a largest flag unfurled in a cave. There is one for the largest flag unfurled on a mountain. There's one for the largest flag unfurled underwater. Which at least has the merit, as I can imagine, unfurling a flag underwater is a bit tricky. And there's one largest flag unfurled by zip wire.
Actually, I'd quite like to do that. That sounds fun.
That does sound fun, doesn't it?
Zipping down a zip line with a big old flag behind you, revealing it as you go. That's a great idea.
But if you want a big flag record and you have no fabric, do not worry. You can make a mosaic flag and claim a record, such as the largest Lego flag, or the largest flag made of pencils, or the one of envelopes, or the business cards one, or the greetings cards, plastic bottles, cupcakes, chocolate bars, cardboard boxes. All of these have their own records. And if you haven't got any of that, Ryan, all you have to do is gather 537 of your closest friends, head to the nearest pool, and you can snag the world record for the largest floating human flag, which is held by the Yuancheng Salt Lake Tourism Development Company since 2019.
Can you be the only one to do it, and therefore it's a record? I guess
I
so.
feel like a lot of these may have been that, and a lot of them were broken by the tourism board of this place, or the Buy My Stuff company of that place.
I just can't imagine there's a big industry of people going to the pool with lots of their friends to make a human flag.
I came away with a much lower opinion of flag-based records, I'm not going to lie.
What about projections of flags?
Projections didn't come up. There were a few others, but that's the large part of it. I Googled or went to the Guinness record site and checked just search box for largest flag, thinking one or two would come back.
Right.
100 and some pages came back.
Oh, it must be awful working at Guinness World Records, mustn't it?
You must think, is this what I went to college for? To type up that this was unfurled while skiing wearing a red hat in November.
I've got Guinness Book of Records number 3, but it's not worth anything.
Yeah.
Number 1 is worth a bit of something, but 3 isn't.
I would have thought there would be some completionists out there that would want a 3.
Not that many, clearly.
If it's that open to people doing stupid things and getting a world record, I think we should do it.
Maybe let's do it. Let's commit to ourselves for the next episode to break a world record while we're at it.
The world's largest flag made from mayonnaise and ketchup.
Yeah.
And we just do the...
Japanese flag.
Yeah, Japanese flag it is.
All
That's
right.
nice and easy. It's a lot of mayo, though.
Well, if there isn't an existing record, does it have to be big? It could be 6 inches. We'll submit it to Guinness going, ta-da!
Even if we have it for a year, it's fine, right? Until someone beats it.
Yeah, the largest flag ever spread on toast.
Good. Better than Jesus.
All right, guys. So during the history of Morocco section, you may remember that we spoke about the Moroccan people's resistance to the French protectorate.
Yes.
Well, look, during my research, I stumbled on something that I thought was actually pretty cool and kind of fitted with literature, so I thought I'd bring it here. So, first of all, just a quick reminder, Morocco in the 1940s is under the protection of France, and local people don't like it, right? Resistance groups are forming, protests are underway, and the French are trying to suppress them. They've banned political meetings, they're censoring newspapers, and they're locking up resistance leaders. But it's not entirely working because people are still coordinating against them. And that's because they've overlooked one thing. Because every week across the country, Moroccan women were gathering for traditional ceremonies where the bride would have her hands and feet tattooed with intricate symbols that are meant to ward off evil, promote fertility.
And look cool.
And look cool, exactly. The tattoos are made using henna, which is a reddish-brown dye, made from crushed leaves that you apply to the skin in various patterns, and after a few hours you wash it off, and it's stained your skin. It lasts for a few days to a week. So it's kind of like a temporary tattoo. Now, French soldiers at the time weren't interested in native traditions, but if they had bothered to look closer, they would have seen that the henna tattoos were actually secret coded messages for the resistance. Some of this is anecdotal, but some of the henna messages are supposedly include a zigzag, which means avoid the main road, a tiny hidden dot in a flower, which meant a safe house is nearby, and geometric shapes were used to sort of create rudimentary maps of French troop movements.
Could be an idea for a story there.
That could be. Couldn't you imagine something encoding those kinds of instructions? That's brilliant.
Yeah, but in reality, it was so successful that the kamsa, which is the henna symbol for protection, became the entire movement's resistance emblem, which meant that when women were painted it on their hands, they weren't just warding off evil, they were literally pledging loyalty to a free Morocco. But here's the other thing, henna wasn't only used for brides and secret messages, it was also used by the resistance as a form of shaming too. So there are several accounts which describe during certain uprisings where women were smearing deserters with henna, staining their hands and their clothes to essentially tag them as cowards. There was one account which describes women gathered on a rooftop throwing henna-dyed palm fronds down onto men who were running beneath them away from the fighting, which splattered on their skin and clothes and told everyone who saw them that they were basically a disgrace. And the consequences were severe. One historian wrote that men marked in henna were at best mocked and beaten, and at worst cut off from using water from the local wells, outcast, or just killed.
Oh my God. Well, a couple of things leap to mind, Ryan. Number one, imagine you're the henna guy transporting your bucket of henna and you trip over and you splash yourself with henna. No! And then you'd have to write in henna, this was an accident or something.
Well, that's sort of quite a historical idea, isn't it? To sort of shame people by branding of some sort. They certainly did it at Roman times. It was done under English law as well. Generally, I think Romans were branded like cattle on their forehead so they couldn't hide it.
Oh my God.
Thieves were branded so they couldn't go out without not being known that they're thieves.
That's why you should always be suspicious of someone with a long fringe.
Or a low hat.
You often wear a cap, Ryan.
I do, because I am a coward. All right, well, look, there you go. We have come to the end of the line, guys. It is time for us to step into the dock and prepare to face the people's judge.
Dun, dun, dun.
Judge Dersley, are you ready to give your verdict?
Yes, I am.
Then will the defendants please rise?
I'm up.
Your Honour, as usual, may we start proceedings by first asking for your verdict on factual content.
Well, obviously there were some facts in it, but Ryan's factual content was 0.
That is true, yes.
What? Yours is about myth. Literally not true. Where's the fact in Hercules?
Well, it's I could argue that it's there because it's written down and people know about it.
Mine's written down and people know about it. Buy my book.
What, the three of us?
All right, come on then, give us some grades for factual content.
I'm sorry. D plus.
Oh,
D plus. Wow.
wow. Carry on.
Okay,
Next.
Well, then, Your Honour, we ask for your verdict on entertainment value.
Well, again, I think Peter's bit, the entertainment value, was very interesting, sort of going with the labours. Sorry, I'm going to say Hercules because I'm old-fashioned. I don't do all of these. I'm still a Boadicea man. So that was very interesting because, funny enough, I knew all about that. A lot of the stories there, the clearing out the stables, etc. So that was very interesting. But of course, entertainment of a book. Well, the book wasn't strictly part of the podcast, was it? It was just you banging on about it.
But I, for one, have not laughed that hard in a long time.
That was entertaining, listening to... Okay, I've got a score. Okay, then please, Judge, may we have your verdict for entertainment value?
B minus.
We're in the B territory, that's okay. That's pretty good. Then, Your Honour, it falls to you to give us your verdict on Dersley factor. Is there anything here that particularly tickled your funny bone?
Not really.
Do you know, I was talking to a listener of the show today, and they said to me, "Tell Dersley not to be so mean."
All right. Then, Your Honour, may we ask for your verdict on Dersley factor?
I'm afraid, Ryan. D.
Amazing. Right, well, look, we have reached the final verdict. But before the judge passes his ruling, Peter, we have an opportunity to enter a plea. So if you choose to do so, Peter, could you please make that plea now?
I'm going to make this plea in the form of a 5-word review. Ryan wrote a freaking book! That is all.
And my response to that is, what has that got to do with the price of fish?
All right, well, that leaves us then, Your Honour, standing before you. Have you reached a verdict?
I have reached the verdict, and this is going to be slightly different to normal.
Well, in which case, I would ask most respectfully for your ruling.
So, I think for the episode as a whole, I will give C.
Okay. All right. C.
But I think we have to have an honourable mention in here for the quite astounding work by doing it in a month to actually put together a story that hung together and was consistent and was a real story. I think, Ryan, I'm going to give you an honorary A minus.
Whoa! Which brings our grade to
A C.
Oh yeah.
Currency conversions, terrible.
So you can sort of put that on the side.
All right. Okay, well, look, there you go. That is the show for this week. So if you'd like to get in touch about any of the things that we've talked about on the show or just to say hello, you can reach out to us on social media through our website at hhepodcast.com or by email at peteandryan@hhepodcast.com.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you, and you never know, you might end up featured on a future show.
That's right, and one way to definitely feature on a future episode is to rate and review the show or the book on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or Amazon Kindle or Apple Books or any number of online book retailers.
By the way, from now on, a mention of your book is considered a point off. I mean, in future episodes.
Fair enough. Now, if you're on Mastodon, Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, X, you can find us at HHE Podcast. And if you subscribe there, you'll get an alert when we post trivia tidbits, pictures, anything we can think of. Probably adverts for the book.
We'll be back again soon with our next episode. Episode 105, Magic Tricks in New South Wales during 1603 to 1868.
Yeah, the Derslater has not been kind lately, has it?
Well, are you going to write a book about it?
No, definitely not this time.
Ryan joins the Magic Circle.
But in the meantime, a huge thank you to the judge himself. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
And that is it. I guess all that's left to say now is...
You've been listening to and reading... Right, I would like to talk about the film Casablanca, because we expressed surprise that it was not filmed in Morocco at all. But what I hadn't realised is part of the reason it wasn't filmed in Morocco at all is that it was filmed in 1942. So the war was very much ongoing at this time, so it was very highly unlikely that anyone would be nipping over to occupied territory in order to film a Hollywood movie.
So they must have written it and made it and released it within a matter of a year or two.
Yeah, it's set essentially a year before it was released.
Wow, I had no idea. I would have said it was a 50s or an early 60s movie or something.
I thought the same thing, but no, it's... and the other thing I hadn't realised is that the day of the last scene at the airport is, I think, the 7th of December 1941.
Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor. So Rick deciding to take a stand is metaphorically America entering the war.
Oh, do you know what? I'll never see that film in the same way again. That's amazing.
I've seen the film a bunch of times, never knew that, never thought that. So yeah, that was really interesting to me.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen Casablanca?
What?
Wow.
Uncultured oaf.
Thank you.
Now, you also mentioned, Ryan, that Rick's Cafe is in Casablanca, and I said yes, it's a remake, as it were.
Yeah.
It wasn't a real thing at the time. And it is indeed a restaurant, bar and cafe today. It opened in 2004, though, as a recreation or inspired by the set of the famous bar. And I guess my final Casablanca fact is "Play it again, Sam" is a frequent misquote from Casablanca, because it isn't actually said in the film, is it? He says, "Play it, Sam." And he says a couple of other similar things, but he never says "play it again, Sam." But that is the name of a 1972 movie by Woody Allen, which might be where people get that confusion from.
Really? They link a different film with Casablanca?
Yeah, well, I guess "Play it again, Sam" must have drawn on that. I was imagining it was because Woody Allen's a prodigious referencer of films, isn't he?
The lady in the movie says "play it, Sam" as well. "Play it for me, Sam," she says.
She does, but nobody says "play it again." They're sick of Sam and his bloody song.
Shut up, Sam.
Will you pack it in, Sam?
And we're out. My God.
Well done, everyone. Hello, lovely YouTube folks. This is a special message just for you.
Yeah, thanks for listening all the way to the end.
Now, if you enjoyed the show, please let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
And don't forget to take a moment to hit that like and smash subscribe.
Hit that like.
Yeah.
Smash subscribe.
Yeah, it's what people say.
Do they, though?
Yeah, only the cool kids.
And you think you're the cool kids, do you?
No, we're the cool kids.
Oh, yeah, I suppose we are. All right, smash that like button, people. Smash it real good.
Oh, yeah. Nice.